Hello, everybody. Peace. So, today I'm going to be talking about a form of trauma that, again, I don't think many people talk about, but it's something that so many of us go through, and it is food trauma.
From beautiful seas to flourishing legacies.
So, what is food trauma, right? How can it show up? Where does it show up in our lives? And the answer to that question is whenever I ask a question, I put the answer to that question in it. It's always kind of awkward, so excuse me for that. But the answer to that question is that food trauma can show up in every single part of our lives. It can show up in the moment that we wake up and then we make our breakfast. It can show up as soon as we walk into the kitchen. It can show up in the way our eating habits are, and it can show up in not eating at all. It can show up in eating when we are stressed, and it can show up in when we are cooking for our family. And especially being a Muslim woman and being a Muslim or being a woman in general, the cooking normally falls on the woman, right? And then the question again is, what if she has been through something so traumatizing that every time she wants to cook something, and it isn't just for women, it can be for men as well, that she just doesn't want to do it, or she wants to get it done as soon as possible. And it could be something really hard to explain to people, because so many people view food as something that is connection, and it is something that is bonding, something that is beautiful, something that is so fulfilling, right? It's I mean, back in the day, that's what people would work for, just food, bring the food home. And then there's this instance that someone has gone through some serious food trauma, and I'll explain where that could come from as well. And then it just puts like this block in a relationship between people, and it's so unexpected, but it's so insidious in how it can show up to us. So first and foremost, I just want us to be aware of that. I want us to be a little bit more aware of our own relationship with food. When you are feeling stressed, what is it that you do with food? Even if you don't feel stressed, if you're about to cook something, do you have this feeling that you want to do everything except for cooking? When you are cooking, do you always happen to burn your food? Do you not really want to cook at all? Or is it all you ever want to do, cook? Maybe it's a passion, maybe you're a chef. That's something probably very separate to this. But the reason why this shows up in however it shows up in you is because food and our relationship with food is something that was from our childhood when we were growing up. So it was the very first primal instinct for any baby. It could be an animal baby, it could be a human baby. Any baby, is that the mother always feeds the baby the food, and it is a form of bonding with the child. But sometimes there could be a disconnection from the mother and the child, even as small as when you're feeding the baby, you're not looking at the baby's eyes, right? And the size of the pupils that you look at the baby's eyes can even, as Gabo Mate, he said that it can determine whether a person has ADHD or they don't have ADHD, just from that communication of looking. And that looking normally happens when you're feeding the child. And then there is other reasons why that food trauma can also show up. And it can show up, for example, if you were a person who lived in a household that every time it was time for dinner, people would argue and they would throw things and they would splatter food across the table because everyone just happened to be in one place at that time. And then it was just such a difficult situation. So every time you eat, this flashback happens and you feel like, wow, I just want to get this food over and done with. I don't even want to chew the food. And yes, it is as bad as that, right? And it's, again, it can show up in so many different ways. And the first and most important thing that I hope that we can all do is start to observe our own patterns with food. How do we feel in certain situations, and how can we begin to work through this? How can we begin to understand it a little better as well? And the first one is, again, just awareness. With all of our patterns is always awareness, and with that awareness comes mindfulness, and then we begin to change our behavior around it because we are aware of it. So I hope that this video has been helpful and useful. Drop me a comment. If I don't see the comment, send me an email email. If you have any questions to do with trauma in general, tag someone who you feel would benefit from this video, share this video, comment, like, etc. As many people as possible to have this information would be absolutely amazing. And I also have a free downloadable for you for my book, The Woke Writer. It is all about letting go. It's all about surrender. And it is a chapter from my book. It's free. And I also have a course, which is also free. And it's 14 lessons from my book, The Woke Writer. And I invite you to join me on that journey of growth, of inspiration, and using that inspiration to create your masterpiece, whatever that masterpiece is. Have a beautiful and blessed day, everyone. Peace.